mind control.
Subverting by means of psychological tactics an individual's control of his or her mind, thinking, behavior, emotions, or decisions. One acknowledged technique to facilitate this is
Hypnosis.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more creepy and disturbing content. I post new videos every week. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoy.
Behind locked doors and almost 100 General Motors plants throughout the country lie thousands of secrets, military secrets that Hitler would give his best panzer divisions to know. For in these plants is being designed and built a large part of the avalanche of weapons that will break the back of the Axis. Training men for the tremendous job of making, using, and maintaining the tools of war is of primary importance.
As General Motors makes victory its business.
Human experiments. You've probably heard of the Stanford prison experiments, the Nazi human experiments, and of course, MKUltra. Human experimentation was a bit of a slippery slope during the 1900s as prisoners, the disabled, the physically and mentally sick, and the poor were all groups of people considered fair game to use as subjects in any research experiments. And you didn't even have to get permission. Countless doctors and researchers conducted their experiments on people who were unwilling to participate, or who were unknowingly participating. And because they were a prisoner, poor, or sick, they didn't really have a choice. Fortunately, the US Congress changed the rules, and consent is now a requirement for any government-funded medical study involving humans as subjects. But before 1974, the ethics surrounding the use of humans in research experiments was a little, let's say, in the air, and to the surprise of no one, this was taken advantage of at quite an alarming rate. Because of this, there was a long period where lots of governments were carrying out human experimentation as preparation to aid them in case of warfare. These experiments included interrogation, infectious diseases, drug abuse, isolation, and the list goes on and on. These people were actively testing the absolute peak of what humans can physically and mentally endure, and still pressing further. An element of all of this was control, trying to control the outcome when humans get exposed to life-threatening situations, and on the other hand, putting humans in these life-threatening situations in order to do these tests and sometimes not even being able to save them. During the Cold War, the CIA started researching ways they could turn Americans into CIA-controlled super agents. These are people who would carry out assassinations and who wouldn't be affected by enemy interrogations. Behold the first project, Project Artichoke, also known as Operation Artichoke. This was a Central Intelligence Agency project that researched interrogation methods, among other things. The project arose on August 20th, 1951, by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. Project Artichoke's core focus was to determine whether a person could, against their will, be forced to perform an act of attempted assassination. Now, you're probably asking how something like this could even be achieved. Well, they didn't really know, so they tried a wide array of different techniques to try and transform these people into expert assassinators and responders. A declassified Project Artichoke document reads this, and excuse me if some of the sentences don't make sense. Some of the words are quite difficult to read. Project Artichoke is a special agency program established for the development and application of special techniques in CIA interrogations and in other CIA covert activities where control of an individual is desired. Activities along the line of Project Artichoke have been pursued by various components of CIA for at least 4 years, A directive establishing OST as the coordinator of an integrated CIA and interagency program in this field was approved on 13th of March 1951. Results of the program to date are noted as follows. Frequently known techniques which have been used in one form or another along the lines of interest to CIA. Drugs, sodium pentothal, sodium anethol, barbiturate in general, valuations. These techniques have been proven to be effective and they involve little risk to the subject if administered under competent medical direction. Requirements: limited medical facilities, experienced medical personnel, interrogation personnel with background and training in their application, psychological interview to determine strengths, weaknesses, and the suit production pattern of interrogation to follow. Subject usually has no knowledge of actual interrogation. Physiological after effects might be analyzed by a doctor as an indication that drugs of some kind have been used. Another CIA Project Artichoke document reads, "Not all viruses have to be lethal. The objective includes those that act as short-term and long-term incapacitating agents." The main question the CIA kept asking was, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will, and even against fundamental laws of nature? Let's see. So it seems Project Artichoke wasn't making use of verbal, educational techniques to try and reach their goal. No. The project in fact studied hypnosis, forced morphine addiction and subsequent forced withdrawal, and the use of other chemicals including LSD to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. They even used total isolation as a form of physiological harassment for special interrogation on human subjects. They didn't want to teach these citizens how to carry out assassinations or endure intense enemy interrogations. They wanted total and complete mind control to turn these people into shells of themselves. Agents even used cocaine, marijuana, heroin, peyote, and mescaline. But after countless experiments, LSD was said to be the most promising drug. Apart from giving LSD to the subjects, LSD had also unknowingly been given to the CIA agents to test how the drug would affect subjects who didn't know they had taken the drug. One agent was said to be on LSD for 77 days. The subjects who left this project were fogged with amnesia, resulting in faulty and vague memories of the experience. So it's really difficult to track what exactly happened during Project Artichoke. A few transcriptions from declassified Project Artichoke documents can, however, be found. These transcriptions include things such as interviews with hypnotists, research on hypnosis, how to use it, and on whom. Otherwise, most documents and evidence from Project Artichoke were destroyed, and most people who were subjects in Project Artichoke can barely remember a thing. A particularly terrifying transcription was one between a CIA agent and a hypnotist. The kind of questions the agent asks gives an idea of what kind of practices this project was wanting to perform. Question: do you have any ideas that hypnotism could be used as a weapon? Answer: yes, I've thought about this often. It could certainly be used in obtaining information from recalcitrant people, particularly with drugs. Furthermore, it can be used as a morale factor, and in addition, it could be used as a recruiting source for special types of work. I will explain the last two. You have large DP camps in Europe and Asia. You have to entertain these people. A good professional hypnotist is a good entertainer. Using mass hypnotic methods, he could drive home thoughts that would be of great benefit to our side. Individuals that he gained control of through hypnotic influence could be converted to strong supporters of our viewpoints through suggestion. The opposite of this, of course, would hold true. Furthermore, along these lines, a good hypnotist running hypnotic shows for entertainment would pick up a great many subjects, some of whom might be exceptionally good subjects for us. These subjects could easily be tabbed and put to our use. Question: have you ever been able to produce hypnosis without an individual's knowledge? Answer: yes, through the relaxing technique and on rare occasions been able to produce hypnotism against the person's will. However, you cannot count on this, and to attempt to attack an individual who did not want to be hypnotized alone would be almost an impossible task. In that type of case, I would use sodium annitol and or sodium pentothal. Question: can individuals be made to do things under hypnosis that they would not do otherwise? Answer: this is a muchly debated subject, and, in my opinion, as a general rule, no individual will do anything against his moral code or upbringing under a hypnotic trance they would not do otherwise. However, it should be remembered that by the proper type of conditioning and a very intelligent and understanding approach using psychology, individuals could be taught to do anything, including murder, suicide, etc. This would be difficult, but I believe it could be done by a careful process of conditioning a person psychologically while under a hypnotic state, setting its stage for the act, as it were. I do believe that you could carry out acts that would be against an individual's moral feelings if they were rightly, psychologically conditioned. Of course, it would not be as much of a problem to have an immoral person commit an immoral act or a murderer commit a murder, since by their nature, they would have no hesitancy to do such a thing in their normal life. I do not know of any drugs that would do this under any circumstances, but I do feel that the omitted and other familiar cases in which individuals confess to crimes which they could have possibly committed was brought about by hypnosis, as I mentioned before, and lengthy psychological conditioning. The question itself, of course, is one that has been debated a great many times, but is difficult to actually arrange a practical test. Question: do you have any material that you think might be of interest to me along these lines? Answer: yes. An individual who has been hypnotized makes a very excellent courier. They can be given messages while under hypnosis, which they themselves do not know, and only an individual knowing the code can get this message from this courier. Even assuming that the post-hypnotic control could be broken, or the individual hypnotized, it could still be protected, perhaps as follows. A person could be regressed to a certain date and time, and then given the message, and unless the person who subsequently gained control of the subject regressed the subject to the correct date and time set out, he could not get the message. Even more secure would be to move the individual forward. If he were moved from 30 years of age to 35 years of age at a given date and time, then given the message, unless the individual could guess the age, the time, and the date in the future, he could not obtain the message. In my opinion, the use of this hypnotic technique is valuable from your point of view. Certain it is that by hypnotic control over an individual, you can extract information probably better than any other known way. Furthermore, in good subjects, you can create complete amnesias, which should be helpful. In addition, as I mentioned above, I think this technique could be used on a mass scale, as I explained, both as a morale factor or for propaganda purposes. Some people in the army I know are giving thought to these items, but whether it can ever be sold at the top level, I cannot say. I think it would be very valuable. Frank Olson, a biological scientist who worked for the CIA during the early 1950s when these experiments took place. Olson worked on this extremely top-secret project, and his job at Project Artichoke was to refine the methods for using the drugs. At a meeting in Maryland, he was unknowingly dosed with LSD by his colleague Sidney Gottlieb, who was actually the head of the CIA's MKUltra program. The night of the drugging, Olson returned home to his family and was beside himself. He refused to eat, was very quiet, and would not attend to his children. Eventually, he said to his wife that he had made a terrible mistake, not providing further information on what the mistake was. At this time, the project had been underway for 7 months, and around 24 men knew the true nature of what was happening behind closed doors. He even tried to resign from the project, but upon returning home to his wife that afternoon, he informed her he was seeking psychiatric treatment and was afraid he might hurt her, all while under the supervision of one of his co-workers, John Stubbs. They left shortly after for the so-called treatment. At around 2 a.m. the following morning, Olson fell to his death from the window of the Hotel Statler in New York. The night manager rushed to Olson, who was still alive and who tried to mumble something, but he unfortunately passed before help arrived. The incident remains a rather large mystery. It is still unclear whether Olson was pushed, convinced, or whether he committed the act himself. Experts say that Olson was deeply traumatized by what he had witnessed during Project Artichoke, and he had said that the acts were completely unethical. The scariest part of this entire situation is that we know what the experiments used and entailed, but that's about it. Most of the classified documents and evidence were destroyed, so the amount of people who were permanently traumatized, injured, or even killed are for the most part unknown. If they were putting people on hallucinogenic drugs and injecting them with deadly viruses, what were their living conditions like? What did they do to these people while they were having these experiences? Did they even care about these people? Project Artichoke was the very thing that kicked off one of the most well-known projects for human experimentation today, MKUltra.